Hello there guys, my name is Jake Dwarf and welcome to a new video. With me being back from the Netherlands, I am of course doing more videos now. So a few of you guys before I left asked about me showing how I build ships. And it's quite a difficult way of explaining how I build ships, but I decided, however, that screw it, let's do it anyway. And this video may come a bit late tonight because of course I've got to edit it and all that, so please be mindful of that. Let's get into it. So the ship I'm actually going to show you an example of is something I'm building currently, which is this. Now I don't really have any names for it, so any name suggestions please feel free. If you want to know what class it is, it's another exploration vessel, so come up with some names if you wish and put them in the comment section below. Now this craft I built in a weird way, because what I did was I built the back section first and then moved outwards from that and sort of started to flesh it out as I went along. So what you'd actually get is, if I just cut all this in half and just cut away part of the map as well by accident, what you'd actually get is this. So I started off with this and then basically moved forwards with some sort of layout. Now, some people don't like building in this way, but I absolutely love it. Basically, it allows you to modularize all the items that go into that pod before you move on to the next one. And I go through and rename everything if people don't know. If you can't see it, if it's like a bed or something, I'll just make it invisible to the terminal. And if it's like an engine or a thruster or anything like that, I will name it for that specific module. These thrusters here have got names if you went into the system, and it all matches up, which is nice because I wanted to add some sort of realism to the ship where you could go out and go, what needs repairing? Oh, thruster, blah blah blah, that's on pod 1, pod 2, pod 3, whatever. And it makes sense to me because I'm really OCD about building ships now, and especially the small ships. And again, I go through and just name everything if I can. And the way I tend to structure the ship is I'll build a frame like I've got here, which is a very simple frame, and you know, it's not that special. It'll start off as like a rectangle and then move out into like a cuboidy looking thing, and then it'll just keep getting weirder and weirder as I go along until I end up with a shape I enjoy and like the look of. And then what I'll do is I'll start to implement spaces within that to accommodate thrusters and engines. So I implemented sort of an area here that allowed for these thrusters to sit in, and I also gave gap here for where the engines ultimately go, which you can see through these grates. And you know, I started putting things in where I wanted them to be in the general retrospect to what the ship or what the module on the ship is doing. So this pod here is quite blank in all fairness, and it was quite a bit of a guesswork on what I was going to do in there because I wanted oxygen machines and things like that, oxygen generators, oxygen tanks, and it was very much an odd one, but this is the general gist. Now, floors, what I do tend to do is have them too thick. Now, the reason why I have them too thick is so I can put these on the floor, the conveyors, and I want them to run through the floor. And then what I can do is, if I go over to my pre-grinded up blocks, I can then copy them, take them over and drop them onto wherever I want them. So if I were to get these, for instance, and I wanted to place these down on them, now what I can do is place them. And having them in my copy, in my, like, you know, my clipboard, I can do that and I can make the floor look really nice. Now I wanted it too thick, and I know it adds a lot of weight, but I wanted it too thick because this makes sense, because if you were to have just the blocks on their own, you can see partly through them and you can see space, which to me means that it's not pressurized. Now, the game doesn't recognize it in that way and says, yeah, it's still pressurized, but to me that just didn't make sense. So I decided to go through the full ultimate way of being Mr. OCD and put two thickness of floor in, and it just looks a lot nicer when you actually look at the ship and how far I've got. Now, in terms of thrusters and things, I've actually started not putting the smaller maneuvering thrusters in. I've just been adding them at the end because you don't know how many you're going to need, and you can make nice spaces for them when you look at the ship and how it looks, and you can get a nice sort of idea on where you want to put them once everything else is in place. Because to me, the thrusters, you can make them look really nice, but for this ship it doesn't really need to look that nice. So I wanted all the other features to look beautiful. So it's, you know, it's just a hodgepodge of engines. They may change and they may alter, but ultimately that's roughly where I want to put them. And again, the ideas tend to change from form to form. So once I've got that done and the module done, I actually went through and painted the back section, the first section I did, in the colours I wanted. And I went through and went, okay, I'm going to have 3 colours. I'm going to have the black, the yellow, and then I'm also going to have a grey. Now I have 3 colours because you tend to have the 2 colours that are the armour or the external of the ship, and then for anything that's internal I tend to put as a different colour, something that's quite light so you can notice the things. And it does work kind of well. I'm actually contemplating changing the grey to maybe a darker colour. That's hey ho. I mean, if it looks nice in the end, then I'll just keep it, but you know, I am sort of contemplating whether or not to change it. But I then go through and flesh them out with things that I would like in the craft. So for this one, for instance, I actually wanted to have seats. I think I just moved this. Did I just move this? Yes, I did. So I actually wanted seats in here that I could, you know, look at the screens on and stuff and monitor things. And that's what I did. And then I even customed the roof to look, you know, to fit some really nice windows in. And again, that was something that came later on in the build. And it's just about just tweaking with it. Don't be afraid to pull it apart and put it back together again and add things and take things away. You won't know unless you've tried. So that's one of the things I would like you guys to sort of take away from this. You don't have to be, you know, just going for one look. You change it up, see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. If it looks awesome, well done, you found an awesome thing, you know, an awesome way of building. So I'll show you the way I actually name things now. So we are in the engineering room 1. So I've named the chairs engineering room 1, and then what you can do is you can go ER. Now what this does is allows you to filter. So I can go ER1, and I can filter through a lot of things. Now of course some things don't really work. Some things like AL and stuff like that, they come up as well, but overall you get the general idea of what is in this. So I've got all the thrusters that are a part of this, and you know, they're pretty much standard on what is going to be on here now, so they're not going to change that much. And then I've got the reactors, I've got the 4 of them, which are all grouped together, so I can, you know, turn them off and on. Now if you've also noticed, I only really have a lot of groups on here because I don't see the point of having the groups and then having everything else visible. So you can just turn them off, just, you know, where is it, show blocking terminals, turn them off, and you can still have control over them through a group. So that's what I've done here. Now all the LCDs I haven't been able to do anything with really in terms of grouping them and stuff, which kind of annoys me, because of course they'll all have different information on and all this other stuff, and I may want to make them part of the MMasters code where they actually display live information, or just have some random information I type up myself. So those have had to stay as they are, and as I add more the list gets longer. But in the general terms of things, I've got thrusters, the second lot of thrusters, maglocks, O2 generators, O2 tanks. I've grouped everything into, you know, certain sections. And again, this is what it looks like without the thingy turned on, without the visibility turned on, sorry. So we've got everything that's been renamed. So you've got, you know, living module 1 thruster, and then it's got where it's going up or down, backwards or forwards, rear gyros because I may want to put some at the front, and everything like that. Even the beds, I've renamed the beds, and call it very anal of me, but I really love doing that because you get a bigger sense of living in it, and it's a good, you know, thing to take from that. Now the last thing I tend to do with ships, once I've done all this customization and putting the gear in and all this, is I actually tend to go through and put the lights in last. The reason why I put the lights in last is because they tend to generate the most lag. So with a ship, if you're building it for like 20 hours, 24, you know, almost 30 hours, something like that, you could get really annoyed with the lag, and the way I would preferably work is without the lag or without the slowdown from the lights. So I will come through this afterwards and start putting the lights in, and putting them to their designated switches and all that other stuff, because that is what I want. I want all the lights I want the lights to have separate switches, so you can turn things on and off and have a lot of control over it more than anything else. And it just makes a lot more sense, especially when you are using M-Master's code to display things like the air vent pressures and stuff. You can pick out the air vent a lot quicker by saying, okay, it's in the living module, or it's in the engineering module, or you can really easily pick it out. The last real thing that I tend to do is add external features. Now, external features can class as these, where I just put the names on of what the module is. This is living module 1, so it's LM1. So you can designate what part of the ship is where on the craft without even having to look into its information. You can look at the ship and go, okay, that's the living module, that's the engineering module, and some of them can be blatantly obvious where I don't even have to put a name on them. So that is the general gist, I think. I mean, other things I would say, little tips and hints. If you want to build a lot faster and you have ground up blocks, put them to one side and just have them so you can copy and paste and put them on your clipboard, as I've explained earlier, and just do it in that way, because it's so much easier rather than having to grind the blocks down later. Just have it in a copy and paste, drop them in. So much easier that way. The only issue I have found sometimes with doing it the other way, where you place the blocks, is things like the panels. You can put them in the wrong orientation, so you can have the lines going vertical instead of horizontal or something like that, and when you grind them down, that is when you know. So having them in the copy and paste means you can copy, and then you can go to place it on the ship, and of course you have all right to rotate, so it's so much quicker and easier. And then another real small little thing is, if I forgot to add stuff, I will find gaps to stick things and make it look like it's been welded on as a later feature, which it was in retrospect. So say an antenna, I forget to put an antenna relay on or something, I will make it look like it's been welded on, or there's some just bits of metal holding it on there, because it was something that was added later on in the build, and making it so it actually has like a bit of a story and give it a bit more character. Because rather than having this perfectly symmetrical ship, you've got this janky looking ship that's had a few things done to it, and and again, this ship may even not look like this when you guys see it next, when I release it fully, and it may look a lot more broken up as such. So that is the idea of how I build. I hope I've explained it in a way that you guys can get the gist of. It's very, very confusing in points, because I do things in my own way, and everyone does their own thing really. And again, if it's comfortable with you guys to do it in however way you're building, do it in that way. You don't have to take on the building techniques of others, but if you think they're going to help you, then happily take them on and use them. I mean, I'm here to help. So that is it. I hope you guys have learned a few things about this, and learned a few things about how I build and what I do, and hopefully it helps you build a lot better, a lot quicker maybe, I don't know. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, then please like, favourite, and of course subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Space Engineers. Peace!